Yeah, whenever you hit the crossroad, make the right turn. I am a consultant who coaches individuals who are ready, when they are ready, to transform their lives. People are not ready to become transformed until they reach a crossroad in their lives, which is where I set up my office, waiting for them to arrive. So, you are not at the crossroad whenever you know you are at the crossroad, whenever you are saying to yourself, okay, I have it all, I've seen it all, know all there is to know, been to all the wonderful countries and places. Notwithstanding, I remain unfulfilled. What I offer is not teaching, it is not religion. I am not looking for disciples. What I am able to deliver is a scientific approach known as inner engineering, enabling individuals at the crossroad of their lives to transform, going from the physical to the spirit realm. That's what transformation is. Transform their lives, going from being governed through the physical body and mind, that is in the physical realm, to becoming governed through their spirit being and nature. Thus, transformation is not a dripping process, because you are going from one realm, the physical, to the next, the spiritual realm. So you've got to explode to do that. There is only one possible way, which is to undergo an explosion, wherein you go through the stages of being rigid, I was born this way, to liquid flexible, where you no longer say, I like this, but I don't like that. From there, you go to vapor. When children are blowing bubbles, they say, this is my bubble, that's your bubble. However, once the bubble bursts, there is no longer any distinction between, because everybody is breathing the same air. And as we inhale the oxygen from the trees, i.e., the trees are also benefiting from the carbon dioxide we exhale. So, whereas individuals can refer to having their own body and minds, no one can say, quote, this is my life. For life is a shared commodity, shared with all other living creatures and things. From vapor, a person then goes, who is being transformed, goes into the stage of nothingness, which is the realm of the spirit. God is known as nothingness. God is known as darkness. God is known as space. So, darkness you don't have to be afraid of, for God is darkness. God is also light, but only light was created. So you don't have to be afraid of the darkness. For most of creation is dark. We are in the darkness. So from like I said, from vapor you go to the realm of nothingness, which is the realm of the spirit, and that's where you complete the transformation process. So from that point, it's about becoming a devotee to spirituality, working on your spiritual growth process. The one who is transformed is likened to a vehicle on four wheels, steering or governing by his or her own spirit, having his or her own body and energy system as the two back wheels, and the thought and emotion at the front. The back wheels are stable. They are already going in life's direction. However, the thought and emotion processes need constant alignment, those two front wheels. So all four wheels go in one and the same direction. For whenever you become angry, bitter, envious, anxious, and the like, what you're doing, you're creating poisons yourself, perhaps intended for others more than likely. However, you're the one creating it and then drinking it yourself, poisoning your own system. So in those moments, you're telling your system you don't want to live. You're conflicted, wanting to live in one moment and not wanting to live in the next. So I work with clients so they make all their emotions pleasant. For whereas they can only influence the outside environment, we are able to take 100% control of our lives, our system. In making our body pleasant, that's how we enjoy good health and pleasure. In making our energies pleasant, we become blissful and sometimes ecstatic. In making our thoughts pleasant, we remain peaceful and joyful. And in making our emotions pleasant, that's how we experience love and are compassionate. So, like I said, people are not ready to transform until they reach that crossroad, at which point they say, I have tried to become fulfilled through my body and mind, but to no avail. Therefore, I am ready to try another approach. I keep saying to people that their heart can only be full until they encounter something or someone more appealing. And that even if they crush all the libraries and pound them into their heads, there will always remain something more for them to learn. So therefore, for the human being to become fulfilled, um, it, one can only it can only mean living a full-fledged life. To begin that journey of transformation, you've got to abandon and dispossess. Abandon all your identifications, because when you say, I identify, this is my family, you're saying the others are not, so you're discriminating. So you've got to trade in all those individual ID badges for one universal identity. For God is one and the universe is one energy. And you've got to abandon your attachments. At least put a safe distance between you and all else, as well as dispossess, right? So you've got to abandon and dispossess in order to transform. For everything in the physical realm comes with the boundaries of space and time. You, for example, have the boundary of a height, right? And a shoulder width, that is the boundary of space. And you have a lifespan, the boundary of time. So once you explode and are transformed, it's an enlightening experience, both bitter and sweet. Bitter because you've abandoned and dispossessed. However, sweet, given you become enlightened. On the other hand, to be in the dark is to not know something. Therefore, becoming enlightened is to know that which you didn't know before. In being governed by your spirit, your own spirit, you are free to grow and expand limitlessly. It is only in the spirit realm that there are no boundaries. The physical realm, that's all it has, boundaries. So you cannot grow beyond boundaries. As you yearn, people are there trying to grow one promotion at a time. You're wasting time. As you yearn, you elevate from basic survival to going after your career ambition, and from there to having a vision. A vision is simply a larger ambition, wanting for everyone else the same things you want for yourself. In becoming transformed, you are no longer compulsive in either your thought or behavior. You begin to make choices consciously. Conscious thought and behavior never says, I'm free to do as I please. For that is compulsive thought and behavior. Conscious thought and behavior says, I am free to not only choose that which is good and right for me and mine, but also that which is prudent for the whole, whether that be the group, the society, the country, or world by extension. In seeing with clarity, I can look and see so many people who are trying to squeeze pleasure out of the environment, when pleasure is something that you create from within yourself. I hear people talking about their need for stress management as if stress comes from the environment. People are the ones creating stress for themselves. They stress the load instead of learning how to carry it. I see people who, whenever they are alone, they seem to be lonely. Whoever's lonely when she's alone is in bad company. Notwithstanding, there are two things that stand out to me very crystal clearly. One is that whereas a person can use psychology on others, she must never psych him or herself. Rather, always tell yourself the truth. The other thing is that people mix up their lifestyle with their life. When you talk to them about their life, they tell you about their lifestyle. There are two aspects to you, my friend. Your psychological drama, which is your lifestyle, and your existential reality, which is your life. God is real, and so is life. So you don't need to be either an optimist or a pessimist. Be a realist. Your existential reality is your 70. That's your bottom line. The space you occupy with your shoulder width and height and your lifespan. You will have lived a full-fledged life to the extent you are creating memorable experiences as you become a better and better version of yourself every day. instead of living your life by comparison with your neighbor or others. Your psychological drama is unreal. Your personality and character likewise. God is only a presence, you know. So be a presence, a powerful one at that. That will be all, my friend. Have a good one.